Thank you, GIE, for this opportunity to share our work on behalf of my team. I am Bhaumik Brahmbhatt, a gastroenterologist at Mayo Clinic, Florida, and one of the co-authors on the single-center study at our institute, comparing flexible endoscopic cricopharyngeal myectomy and myotomy approach for Zenker's diverticulum repair. Why did we feel a need to do this study? Incision of the cricopharyngeal muscle with flexible endoscopy is a key step for Zenker's diverticulum repair, with immediate symptomatic resolution in approximately 90% of the cases. But recurrence of symptoms has been reported in up to 20%. The most common cause of persistent symptom is incomplete cricopharyngeal myotomy or tissue regrowth. We hypothesize that instead of a traditional cricopharyngeal myotomy defined as a single vertical cut of cricopharyngeus muscle, if we perform a wedge-shaped excision, that is, myectomy of the cricopharyngeal muscle with flexible endoscope, it would create a wider communication between the diverticulum and the esophageal lumen with an appropriate tissue separation, thus minimizing tissue regrowth and potentially decrease the risk of recurrence after repair of Zenker's diverticulum. Golder et al. Reported the feasibility of this study with limited follow-up time, while we compared these two techniques with longer follow-up. What does our study add to the existing knowledge? Our retrospective case control study includes all consecutive patients with Zenker's diverticulum who underwent endoscopic repair by our advanced endoscopist, Dr. Timothy Woodward, between August 2014 and July 2017. Once again, conventional cricopharyngeal myotomy was defined as a vertical cut through the cricopharyngeus muscle, while cricopharyngeal myectomy was defined as parallel incisions of cricopharyngeal bar followed by snare resection at the cricopharyngeal resection base. A detailed video of this technique has been previously published by our group in Video GIE with link description below. Primary outcome of our study was to compare Zenker's diverticulum symptom recurrence with each technique. Secondary outcomes were to compare improvement of dysphagia and procedure adverse events in between these two techniques. 64 patients underwent endoscopic repair of Zenker's diverticulum, of which 44 had cricopharyngeal myotomy and 20 had cricopharyngeal myectomy. Our experienced therapeutic endoscopist, Dr. Timothy Woodward, did the technique selection, primarily influenced by size and ability to perform the parallel incisions. That is, large diverticula appear to be more prone to recurrence, and smaller opening may not allow instrumentation for excision. More importantly, our initial patients were those that failed with single incision myotomy and were referred to us for symptom recurrence. In that case, the treatment intent was to achieve optimal outcome. During the study period, in the traditional cricopharyngeal myotomy cohort, 23% of patients had recurrence of Zenker's diverticulum, whereas no recurrence in cricopharyngeal myectomy cohort. Difference was statistically significant with a p-value of 0.02. Multivariate analysis also shows a similar trend, but with no statistical significance, p-value of 0.07. In between these two techniques, there was no statistical difference in adverse events and degree of dysphagia improvement. We concluded that cricopharyngeal myectomy is a new endoscopic technique for Zenker's diverticulum repair. In our experience, it was safe and well tolerated, with a high initial success rate and less Zenker's diverticulum symptom recurrence when compared to standard myotomy. What should come next? Acknowledging limitations of our study and based on the rarity of Zenker's diverticulum, we have begun to address this issue as we and other institutions accumulate patients with the intent to undertake prospective studies in a more longitudinal manner. This will help compare different emerging techniques with extended follow-up time. It will also lay a groundwork for designing randomized controlled trials to identify optimal technique. Thank you for your time and consideration.